All right. So, when you log into Scoutbook, you're typically going to be using My Dashboard. You can always use the back arrow to go back to whatever you were looking at prior, and that could take you, all the way into the details of a scout or what have you. But if you hit Home, the little house, it'll bring you to where you can see My Dashboard. And so on My Dashboard, this is where all the good stuff is. This is where, as you lead dens and you have scouts, you would see your scouts information, your children, and then you would see the information about your den. And you'll notice that there's a percentile here, and that's actually connected to their advancement for their rank. So as they move through whatever their stuff is for, in this case, bear, right? It'll knock that, increase that as they get further. And so it's like literally saying, there's 55 things that you have to do to be bear. This person has done 19% of those. And so when you'll see that whenever you mouse over someone, you can click on them and it will drill into that scout. And within that scout, you're going to see who are the parents and guardians, along with how far along are they. You'll see the things that they've earned already, all their different belt loops and badges. And then, most importantly, well, not necessarily most importantly, but one of the focuses is the connections. And this is where you're able to add parents. And we'll come back to this in a second. But this is where we add our parents and guardians, which is one of our main missions starting out. So I'm going to go, you'll see up here, these are the breadcrumbs. And so if all of these are linked, so if I wanted to click DIN 23, it's going to take me to all the scouts in DIN 23. There's other ways to get to it. If I was at this dashboard level, I'm going to go back, go to My Dashboard. I could put, you see when I mouse over my bear den, it highlights, and it takes me to that same page. And this is where you're really going to do most of your work. So you'll see your leaders, you'll see your scouts, and up here you'll see the calendar for your den, which also is connected to the pack. Something that's useful, and one of our first goals is to make sure that all of our parents and guardians have logged in for our scouts. So at a glance, you can hit this little gear button and you can say, show parents and guardians. And I'm going to hit update. So now it's showing me at a glance each scout, and not only the parent guardian connected to that scout, but when did they last get in? And if somebody hasn't logged in yet, then you would also see that. In this case, so for Andrew here, mom was invited a year ago but hasn't logged in. Whereas, so once you've logged in as a parent, it'll have that last visit versus last invite. And that'll be important when you're following up with your parents to be like, who's logged in and who hasn't. You would be able to see, oh, last invited, I definitely need to follow up with that person. So we're going to go through the process of adding a connection for a scout. And we'll use and my son as an example. So he comes up and we'll go down to Andrew's connections. So these are the people that can see data connected or see Andrew's data. And in most cases, the folks that are not family members are all leaders, or they're folks that are helping do advancement or things like that. So we want to add someone to this just as a test example. So you would, what you're going to need to connect your parents to your scout would be their basic, what's their name, what's their email, and we're going to hit add. And we're going to come right down to here, and we're going to put in those details. And I'm going to ignore, I'm just going to use this as an example, even though there's already an invite out there for them. So there would be test123.com. If there's a secondary email that person has, one maybe there's their personal email and their work email, you could put that in. And so this is typically going to be relationship to the Scout. You're normally going to be checking parent and guardian. And you'll notice what happens when I check that over here in permissions, it updates it. So it says this person can edit advancement, view advancement, edit the profile of that Scout, all those different things, which at our level, we like that. We want the, I mean, it could, if you don't want your parents updating advancements because maybe they did something at home, we can talk about that. But typically at the Cub Scout level, if the parents go in and say, yeah, we did these things, that's okay. And so finally, you'll see that there's a little message here. This is a templated message. So if you wanted to type in something, you could delete this and put something personal in, and then you'd hit invite. And that would send that email with a link and their username and a temporary password for them to log in to Scoutbook and say, is this your student? Or, I mean, is this your Scout? Is this your son? Yes. And they will be connected. So I'm going to go back a step and via the breadcrumbs there. And I'm going to go back, look at connections. And so the connection will indicate, once there's that little thing there, it indicates that they are definitely connected to that Scout. So we can see in this case that Jason, you're still pending for the various reasons, and that the little chain, the little links here aren't fully connected yet because there's something that hasn't been done yet. And down here where mom is, we can see she hasn't logged in yet, so she hasn't completed that validation that she's the right person. So one of the goals, I'm using my breadcrumbs to come back here, is to make sure that we have all the parents and guardians assigned to the Scouts. So we're going to be asking for each den leader or den leaders to come in and connect if they don't have parents that are visiting, that are obviously active and connected, they need to invite them. Or in the case of like this person, you can send that invite again. And so I could be like, hey, please log in, update, and that will send an email to that person. And you can see when was the last time that that invitation email went. So that'll be useful if you've already put their information in and you're still not getting what you need. So that's the connections on a Scout. Are there any questions about that?
No.
All right, good deal. So the next thing I'll show you is, which is probably the other most important bit. Well, no, there's two more really high level important things we want to look at. One is managing advancements. So on the Scout, you can hit advancement, and when you do that, it's going to bring up, all the different parts of the Cub Scout process. And here we can see that the Scout's in Bear. So I'm going to hit Bear. And now it's showing me the things that you need to do to complete Bear. So maybe this Scout has worked on Bear Claws. And so you can come in here and you can mark the different things, date completed, that they did. So I know that this Scout did, learn about the 3 common designs of pocket knives. So when I check it, I'm going to put a date completed. When did it happen, that meeting with the Scout, when did they accomplish it? And then if I'm the leader, I'm going to check that, and that means it's approved. So a parent, for instance, could come in and say they did it. But it's the leader that can come in and say, I approve that that is completed. I know that's completed. In that sense, it gives you a little bit more oversight. And so once you do that, once you check that off, it's going to be showing as completed. And I'm going to go back a step and show you, like over here in bare necessities, we can see this is an item that was marked completed and approved. This item right here has not been approved yet. It's still just completed. So we would want to come in there and check that box to say, yep, that person did that. And so that's how you can individually update advancement for Scout. Now, that's not the easiest way to do it, particularly when you're dealing with lots of scouts. You don't want to do that over and over. So if you select, you go to your den level. Here I have my den selected, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see quick entry. And so at this point, you're able to put in, are you working on rank requirements or adventures? And so we'll just say that we worked on an adventure. And what's nice is this is a bear den, so it's showing only the things that are connected to bears. So I'm going to say that our den we were working on Marble Madness. So at this point, it brings up all the parts of Marble Madness, and I'm able to say, when did we do it? Maybe tonight was our meeting. I'm going to say that I'm approving it because everybody was there and we worked on, these items. Then who are the scouts that get it? So I'm going to say these were all the folks that were at the meeting. So I know they're done. These guys were not at the meeting, so I'm not giving it to them yet. And then I hit save. When I do that, it will update all those scouts. Whereas we were doing in the prior example, we were doing it one at a time. Here you're able to update all the scouts that you finished, whatever it is, all at once. So this will be one of your best friends for handling uh, advancement entry. So I'm not going to hit save because I don't want to really do that. And I'm going to hit back arrow and back arrow to get me back to where I'm at. So that's the easy way to handle advancements. Are there any questions about that?
Nope.
Great. So my favorite tool, and probably the most powerful tool that I've been using this app for about 4 years. This is the thing I like the most. It's the calendar. So I have my den selected, and I'm going to go just click on upcoming events. Now, it looks really busy for the month of September. Part of that is because I am an admin, so I see all the different dens. You would probably see the things that are connected strictly to Pack 226 and then your bear den. And so what you see at a glance is, well, these are different things happening at different days. If I click on something, it's going to show me, what is it, when is it, where is it. So here we know popcorn bundles pick up 5 to 7 on Friday, September 20th, tomorrow. You'll also see the people that were invited to it. So I'm going to go back by clicking on that breadcrumb to my calendar. Let's say that and so this is where it gets great. You can plan out all of your meetings and put them on here. And then you can start having emails go out automatically for you to notify all of the people that are connected to your scouts that, hey, we got a meeting. So let's pretend to make it a simple one. Like maybe next Thursday, my den, whoops, I'm going to go, I clicked on the one that's already there. I'm going to go down here to add event. And I'm going to pick the calendar that is my bear den. And you see the little check mark. When you do that, it flips over here and says, well, here's all the scouts that are in there. Then I'm going to say, what is it that we're doing? Is it a train? Normally, it's going to be den meeting. Every once in a while, you might have, their family camp or other, but 9 out of 10 times it's den meeting. And then you'll put whatever, you want to title it. And this will be in the email that would go out also. So Den 23 Den meeting, Marble Madness, Belt Loop. So that's, typically that's what I put in there. I might also put Class B, just as they see at a glance what it is. Where's it going to be located at? So I'll say the Evergreen Clubhouse, 123 Scout Street. Then start and end time. And you want to pay close attention to this because it may fool around with the dates on you. And the next thing you know, you've set a meeting that goes 24 hours or goofy things like that. I want my meeting to start at 6 p.m. I want it to end at 7:15 p.m. Set. All right. Now, notice that it's September 19th. So I wanted it to be on the 26th. So I'm going to go do that. I got to fix it. So it's going to start on the 26th. And when I did that, it reset my times. So I got to go back in there and update those to what I really wanted them to be. So start end 26th, 6 to 7:15 p.m. So down here, things like I check these. This is not a required thing, but what is it that is it going to be an outdoor activity? Is it a service project? Do you want your parents to be involved? You can check these if you want, but it's not necessary. Over here, we want to make sure that our scouts and our parents are well aware that this is coming. So what I'm going to do is under invitees, I'm going to go to parents because they're not on there. And the scouts aren't like going to be checking their email. So I'm going to hit select all, set, and now it has added even though you're not seeing the parent's picture, you can see their names, and they'll be getting an email eventually once we send this out. The RSVP is something where, and this is a great feature, as you're approaching a meeting and you're wondering how many people are going to be there. People, when they get the email, they can click a link that will tell them, I'm going to be at that meeting, or no, we're not going to be at that meeting. And that's helpful for planning purposes. So you normally want to have that checked. After that, you have your scheduled reminders. And this is super helpful. First, you normally are going to want to send out an email about your event right away. But you may want to say, you know what, I want them to get a reminder one day before the event. And then 4 days before the event. So when I hit save, it will send an email right away to everybody that's in the invitees list. And then 4 days before September 26th, on the 22nd, it'll send an email. And then on the 25th, it'll send an email. So you can set it and forget it. You don't have to keep up with what's going on. Let me get a sip real quick. I'm losing my voice. Once you set this all up, it does all the hard work for you, and you can just log into your calendar and peek at who's going to be there. There's one final really cool feature, and that's connecting your advancement work to the calendar event. And so in this case, let's say that I know we're going to be working on Marble Madness. So I'm going to go up to Bear Adventures, and then I'm going to go find Marble Madness and hit set. And so it it then puts at the event we're going to work on these things. If you click on it, you can then edit that, and you can indicate that these items we're going to complete at the event, at our meeting, as opposed to these items people need to do at home. So once you hit save in the description, they would actually get to see what it is they'll be working on. Because it broke out so much, it actually doesn't display it all right here, but it would do that in the email. And that can be helpful because, hey, what do we need to work on, or do we need to bring something? That's where you can do that. Finally, you have just an area where you can update and make a message. So this would be where you're writing your email. This is this typical text to your parents, and that's where you can also put in the things like make sure that you bring da da da. Look at the advancement notes to see what we're working on. Make sure you bring marbles, whatever it could be. So that's where you personalize it. So they'll get in the email all of this information. They'll get the advancement information and a link for RSVPing. All of that, when you hit save, it does all that for you. The last thing is there's this little area where you can make notes, and it would only be seen by the people that are admins. So you and your co-den leader, or us as other leaders that are admins, and we would see this. This isn't something that you have to use. I've never really used it because I manage my meetings via a very extensive Google Doc. But if you wanted to use this to capture the notes on, I need to bring this, I need to be there early, that would be a good place for it. So the what I recommend is getting in here and planning out as far as you can, um, your den meetings. And typically, Chris will be coming in here. Chris or Clinton will be coming in here and putting in things like the pack meeting, as you can see there. And here we can see Den 18 has already started putting stuff in, and the narwhals are putting things in. And when you click in there, I don't know, it looks like they didn't put too much in here, but they at least have it in there. So this is going to be a resource that you can use for planning, and then your parents know what's coming up. So, are there any questions about my calendar?
Nope.
All right. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard. So here I am. The last thing I meant to mention this earlier was encourage your parents to work when they get connected. They can upload a picture of their scout. It helps at a glance, when you're working through it. And this is particularly useful for new leaders who are trying to understand, know their scouts. Just seeing that face. So you can upload a photo and connect it so that whenever you're navigating around, you'll see that picture that's like, oh yeah, I know Andrew, I know Austin. If you're putting one in for the parents, I would definitely get permission from them first. I can upload photos for all the different scouts. Do you have one, a picture that you want me to use for that scout? And you can put that in there too. Um, and I think that really covers all of the key things that we are asking our den leaders what we want you to do. Get into your den, evaluate which scouts need guardians, parents connected, and connect those parents. And then start planning out putting in your events into your calendar and utilizing it. Eventually, once you start get going or you're getting going, you can come down and start using quick entry to put stuff in there. And you'll see down here, there's other things. Here's how you could send an email to your den if you wanted. There's some handy little reports. These are things that we won't get into on this training, but they're also useful if you're, depending on the administration type stuff you're wanting to do. All right. So, are there any questions or comments you have about any of the stuff that we just looked at?
I don't know if it was on when you went to the den
Hmm.
with camping log or um, project log or something. I don't know if it was down at the bottom. Are we to use that for our camping? I don't know where it was. I saw it quickly, but
I think that might have been at the scout level. Yeah, the camping log. And you can use this for quick entry as well. You can use quick entry to go and put in, how many nights did they spend, how many miles did they hike. That's not something that I don't think in the here and now we're going to be we're asking for. But if you want to keep a track of that, that's you're more than welcome to. And I should add that I would encourage you to ask your parents to log in with their scout, and that way they like my kids get excited when they get on here and they see like, ooh, I've got all of this, and then, well, let's look at that one badge I haven't finished yet so I can figure out what I got to do. So it would be pretty cool for them to additionally see, hey, I've camped a total of 7 days, and I've hiked over 50 miles. um, that's sort of some cool stuff that we can use with that. I would say that's an advanced feature, but it's stuff that you can track nonetheless, and would be something nice to have down the road.
all right, I just didn't know if that's what we were using for attendance when we do our camps or something along those lines.
The You'll be able to track your attendance via that calendar.
Okay.
So what I'll typically do, particularly after a meeting has happened, is I'll go in and I'll mark who was there. So there's an area where, and I'm not the person that owns this for attendance, so you're able to mark who was at our meeting.
Okay.
Um, and so you can track attendance this way too. I think, we'll talk with Chris and Clinton to see if we want to get everybody doing it that way. That would be easiest, but it takes total usage.
Okay.
All right. Other questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. And let me go ahead and stop the recording here real quick.